But this whole idea of soul sucking. Now, what do I mean by soul sucking? So there's actually a verse in the Bible. Let me read it to you. In Ezekiel chapter 13. And the context here is God is talking to a bunch of witches, hardcore occultists, who were immersed in the dark arts, and if you go back and listen to these episodes, I mean, it's pretty dark, kind of the stuff that the ancients were involved in, ancient magic, spell casting, all this stuff. But there's this one part where these witches, these what they got mixed up in, and what's insinuated in the text here. Now, it says I'll start in verse 17. It says, "Now you, son of man, set your face against the daughters of your people, who are talking like prophets from their own imagination. Prophesy against them." So God's telling Ezekiel, proclaim this judgment, this prophetic judgment against these women, these witches. He says, and say, "This is what the Lord God says, woe to the woman who sew magic bands on all wrists and make veils for the heads of persons of every stature." Now, again, this idea of sewing magic bands on wrists and making veils, these are symbolic emblems that were involved in these crazy satanic rituals and ceremonies and practices. And I don't have time to go into the details of all that. But this is not just about wearing something around your wrist or wearing a veil on your head. I mean, it was immersed in these horrific ceremonies and rituals that these witches would engage in. These magic bands on all wrists and make veils for the heads of persons of every stature. And here's this phrase, to capture souls. And then it says, "Will you capture the souls of my people, but keep the souls of others alive for yourself?" So these women, these witches, were somehow capturing souls and deciding the fate of the person along with the soul. So capturing souls, and will you capture the souls of my people, but keep the souls of others alive for yourselves. Now, again, when you look at this stuff, how much do we take literal? How much do we take as metaphor? The context here is divine judgment against these hardcore occultists, Satanist witches who are involved in like crazy, dark, evil stuff. But this capturing souls stuff is like interesting. Now, so here's the text. Now, about 6 months ago now, 8 months ago, somewhere around there, I was listening to a podcast, the Confessionals podcast. And there was a guest on it who used to be involved in, or I can't remember all the details of her story. I think I'm not sure if she used to be involved in magic and witchcraft and came out of it as well. But she dealt with a lot of alien abduction, government, alien abduction stuff, and then MK Ultra stuff, mind control, government conspiracy, a whole bunch of stuff going on. So it's way too much to explain here. But when she was talking, sharing some of her experiences about aliens in particular, she said that when she was abducted these series of times, she said how she saw that there was this technology where they could suck the soul from a body and put it in another body. And so they said that they did that to her, where her soul was taken out of her own body, placed into another body, and then put back into her own body. And I know it's going to just sound absolutely insane and crazy and like completely, I don't know, just ridiculous. I get it. But when you hear a story and it's just like, doesn't sound like she's making it up. Like when you hear her whole story, and then I think she's been on the podcast multiple times, and then you study just the occult, and you study other various parts of the occult, different factions in the occult, and these ceremonies, these rituals, and what they do, and then you start thinking, okay, and you start looking at alien technology. You start looking at what could they possibly have in that realm that we just can't fathom here. And then you see this verse in the context of hardcore witchcraft, sorcery, where God's getting Ezekiel to go after these women, judging them because they captured souls. It's just a weird. And so I did some cursory study and looked at a bunch of commentaries, and it has to do with life and death, this capturing soul stuff. So it's like, to me, it's just an interesting facet that I don't have a lot of information about, a lot of knowledge about, but I've heard it multiple times now. And while we're talking about aliens and this whole scenario, this whole recent disclosure, it's got me thinking about it again. And so if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, and you have more information, you have an experience yourself of this stuff, of alien abduction, or maybe you have some cultic experiences or encounters with soul sucking, with soul transfer. I don't even know how to describe it, but I would love to know more about it. And yeah, so if you're watching this or listening to this, I'll leave a comment down below, shoot me an email. And yeah, just weird to me, fascinating. It just makes me think of like, man, there's so much more that goes on than we realize. And it's just this last like year and a half, man, my paradigm of what I thought, what I used to believe, has just been smashed. Like my understanding was always, it was just like, yep, you have Jesus, you have the devil, you got angels, you got demons, good guys, bad guys, nice, easy, clean, and not easy in the sense of, yeah, like there's a crazy spiritual war that we're in, but it's not as clean cut as that. It's a lot more complex. There's a lot more going on. And just look at our natural world, how many different species exist and how many we have yet to discover. And so it's just like, why would the supernatural world, the spirit realm, whatever, unseen realm be any different? And what kind of stuff happens there? And then you have these verses that just kind of put a spotlight on this one particular thing, and you're just like, what is that? So yeah, would love to know more about